The story began on a quiet evening on Earth, when the sky over a small desert town turned pale silver. People thought it was another weather trick or maybe a military test, but one human knew something was different. His name was Daniel, a calm man, who worked as a desert guide, someone who drove travelers through dangerous dunes, old ruins, and strange natural zones that normal tourists avoided. He spent most days alone with his rover, fixing broken wires, cleaning dust, or making maps for people who wanted to explore the huge desert. Nothing ever surprised him, not storms, not strange lights, and not the endless silence that stretched across the land. But that night he felt something he had never felt before. Sudden pull inside his chest. It's like a warm wave telling him to look up. The silver light brightened and broke open like a cracked egg in the sky. A small shuttle came down fast, but landed softly, almost like it was guided by invisible hands. Daniel didn't know if anyone else noticed, but he grabbed his flashlight, jumped into his rover, and drove toward the landing spot. He didn't feel fear. He simply felt curious, the same way he always felt when he followed lost travelers or strange desert signals. Something inside him said that whoever came in that shuttle needed help when he reached the zone. The ground glowed like warm glass. The shuttle door opened, and a figure stepped out. At first he thought it was a normal traveler with a strange suit, but then the figure lifted her head. The silver hood slid back, revealing a young woman with pale blue skin and golden lines that shimmered under her eyes like natural makeup. Her hair was long, smooth, and bright, like warm starlight. She looked like she didn't belong to Earth at all. And she didn't. She looked at Daniel with wide, scared eyes. "Human guide?" she asked in a soft, trembling voice. "Are you him?" Daniel stared at her, surprised but calm. "I'm Daniel," he said. "Are you?" "All right." The alien girl pressed her hand against her chest, breathing fast. "I am Princess Alira of the Starvale Kingdom. My ship was chased. I escaped. I need a human guide. Not a soldier. Not a guard. A guide. One with no ties to any Earth authority." She looked at him again, almost desperate. "Please tell me you are him." Daniel didn't fully understand what she meant, but he nodded slowly. "If you need help, I'll help you." She almost collapsed in relief. "Thank the stars," she whispered. "You really came." Daniel moved forward and supported her before she fell. She was light, warm, and trembling, like she'd been running for days. Her suit looked damaged, and her hands shook every time she tried to adjust it. Daniel helped her sit inside his rover and gave her water. She drank carefully, like she wasn't used to human cups. When she calmed down, she looked at him again. "Daniel, I need you to take me somewhere. Somewhere no one else will take me." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Where?" Alira swallowed hard, her eyes filling with fear and disbelief. "To the Forbidden Valley." Daniel blinked. People didn't go there. It was the most dangerous region of the desert, filled with unstable terrain, invisible dunes, magnetic storms, and strange, unexplained energy fields. Humans believed it was cursed. Scientists believed it was unstable. And normal travelers avoided it like it was poison. Only Daniel had ever made maps of its edges because he liked challenges. But even he had never gone deep into it. "You want to go there?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes. I must reach the crystal pool before the night of alignment. Once every 100 years, it connects my world with this one. If I reach it, I can send a signal to my people. If I don't," she looked away, "I will be trapped here forever." It took Daniel a few seconds to understand the weight of her words. She wasn't asking to be taken somewhere dangerous just for fun. She was fighting against time. And she was alone on a planet she didn't know. Daniel stood quietly, thinking. He was a simple guide. He had no army, no special tools, no advanced training. But he did know the deserts better than anyone. And he could see that she was scared but strong, determined but vulnerable. He couldn't walk away from someone who needed him. "All right," Daniel finally said. "I'll take you." Alira froze in shock. Her mouth slowly opened as she stared at him like she couldn't believe her ears. Wait. Human. You're actually taking me there?" she said, her voice trembling. You're not refusing? You're not questioning my reason? You're not demanding anything in return? Daniel shrugged. You need help. That's enough. Lyra covered her mouth with her hands, her eyes filling with tears, not sad tears, but relieved ones. No human has ever agreed so fast. Even my own royal guards refuse to walk into a region they don't understand. And you? You said yes without hesitation. Daniel smiled lightly. I've taken tourists to dangerous places. How bad can it be? Alira stared deeper into his eyes. That valley is not normal. It changes shape. It tests your mind. Even my people fear it. Daniel nodded slowly. Then I'll keep you safe. Those words made her look away again, like she didn't know how to respond. She was a princess, someone respected in her own world, someone who probably had guards, advisors, and soldiers. But right now, she was sitting in an old human rover with dust on the seats, relying on a human guide who lived a quiet life. Maybe that contrast made her feel something new. Daniel turned on the engine, and the rover rumbled forward as he steered it toward the dark horizon. The night air was cool, and the stars glittered like tiny fires. Alira watched the landscape with wide eyes, amazed by Earth's beauty. She touched the window gently. Your planet. It's simple, but alive. It breathes quietly. We do not have deserts like this. Daniel chuckled. Most people complain about them. She shook her head. They don't understand. This land holds old stories. As they traveled, she explained more. Her world, Starvale, was a peaceful kingdom filled with floating cities, crystal rivers, and sunlight that never dimmed. But a problem had spread a deep crack in their energy systems, caused by ancient forces. Only someone with royal blood could activate the crystal pool during the alignment. But enemies didn't want her to return because her return meant stability for her people. Power restored and peace renewed. That's why I was chased, Alira whispered softly. They knew if I sent the signal, everything would change. So they wanted to stop me. Daniel listened with calm patience. He didn't understand alien politics, but he understood danger. And he understood someone fighting for their home as the rover moved deeper into the desert. The dust behind them rose like a slow-moving cloud. The air became cooler, and the wind gained a strange humming sound. Daniel knew they were entering the edge of the Forbidden Valley. The silence grew thicker, almost heavy. Even the stars seemed dimmer here. Alira leaned closer to the window. It's starting, she whispered. The valley knows we are here. Daniel glanced at her. It knows? She nodded slowly. This region was formed by ancient cosmic energy. It carries memory. It reacts to presence. It watches. Daniel didn't like the sound of that, but he kept driving. Suddenly, the ground shifted slightly under the rover. The sand looked normal, but the wheels slid like they were on smooth glass. Daniel grabbed the steering handles tighter and kept the rover steady. Alira held onto the seat but didn't panic. Instead, she looked at Daniel with new respect. You are steady, she said. Most humans shake or slow down. Daniel gave a small smile. Desert roads change every day. You learn to adapt. Alira watched him closely, like she was trying to understand what made him so calm. Humans, you surprise me. You are smaller than many species, and your technology is simple compared to ours. But you walk forward even when you don't understand what waits ahead. Daniel shrugged. Maybe we're stubborn. Maybe you're brave, she said quietly. The rover moved deeper, and the sands turned darker, almost blue under moonlight. Strange shapes glowed in the distant stall, thin pillars of crystal sticking out from the earth like frozen lightning. Alira placed her hand against the window again. Those are markers, she whispered. We are on the right path. Daniel slowed the rover slightly, not out of fear, but to study the terrain. How far is the pool? She hesitated. Farther than we can reach in one night? We must rest when the energy storms rise. Daniel nodded. He knew desert storms were bad enough, but energy storms sounded worse. After another hour, the rover reached a quiet, flat area between two glowing ridges. Daniel stopped the rover and stepped outside to check the surroundings. The air felt heavy, but not dangerous. Alira followed him, her suit glowing faintly under the strange light. She stood beside him, looking up at the sky. "Daniel, thank you," she said softly. "You don't know me. You don't know my world. But you still brought me here." "Ah!" Daniel looked at her with a gentle expression. "You needed help. That's good enough." Alira smiled for the first time, soft, warm, and sincere. "I think humans are far kinder than the stories we heard." Daniel chuckled. "What kind of stories?" She looked away again, embarrassed. "That humans are chaotic and unpredictable." The wind picked up a little, carrying a faint humming sound. Alira shivered as she looked at the dark valley ahead. "Tomorrow, when the sun rises, the path will test us." Daniel nodded calmly. "We'll pass it." She breathed out slowly. For the first time since she crashed, she didn't feel alone. She felt safe beside a human who didn't fear the unknown. And for the first time in her life, a princess from another world whispered something she'd never expected to feel on Earth. "I trust you, Daniel. It's a desert wind." The sun rose slowly over the Forbidden Valley, spreading soft golden light across the dark blue sand. Daniel woke first. He was used to harsh mornings in the desert, but even he felt something unusual. The valley air was warm, but still, like everything around them, held its breath. He checked the rover, tightened the seals, and tested the navigation tools. Each device responded slowly, almost as if the strange energy of the land was interfering. But Daniel didn't complain. He simply adjusted things by hand, old style. The way he had learned long before fancy technology came around. Alira stepped out of the rover a few minutes later. Her suit glowed quietly, as if reacting to the sunlight. She took a deep breath, letting the light touch her skin. Daniel noticed her shoulders relax a little, and he smiled. She looked less afraid now. More determined, she turned toward him with a small nod. "The valley will be awake soon. We must move before the first shifting." Daniel didn't know what shifting meant, but he understood urgency. He packed everything quickly, secured the supplies, and guided Alira back into the rover. As he started driving deeper into the valley, the sounds around them slowly faded until only the hum of the rover remained. The Forbidden Valley looked strange in daylight. The sand shimmered with streaks of silver and blue. Some stones were shaped like spirals, others like twisted ropes. Light seemed to bend around tall crystal pillars, creating thin rainbows that vanished as soon as the rover approached. Daniel wasn't afraid, but he felt cautious. He drove with steady hands, watching every inch of terrain so the rover wouldn't fall into unexpected dips. Alira watched everything with wide eyes, like she was returning to a place she had only seen in stories. "This land. It has old power," she whispered. "Even my ancestors could not explain where it came from." Daniel glanced at her. "Why does it feel alive?" She looked down at her hands. "Because it is. This valley was created when a cosmic rift touched your planet thousands of years ago. It left energy behind energy that never sleeps." Daniel nodded slowly. That explained the strange feelings in the air. But he wasn't the type to panic about things he couldn't change. He simply kept driving. They went on for about an hour before the first sign of shifting happened. The sand ahead rippled like water as if something moved underneath it. Daniel slowed the rover immediately, studying the motion. The sand settled again, but a long, twisting ridge appeared where the smooth ground had been before. Alira held her breath. "We must wait. The valley is rearranging itself." Daniel turned off the engine but kept his hands ready. He watched the ridge grow taller, then fade, then rise again in a different place. It looked almost like the land was breathing deeply. After several minutes, the motion stopped. Everything became quiet again. Alira let out a shaky sigh. That was mild. The deeper we go, the stronger the shifts will become. Daniel started the rover again. "As long as we move carefully, we'll be fine." Alira watched him as if studying his reactions. "You don't lose focus. Even when the ground moves like water, you keep your calm." Daniel smiled. "It's just another puzzle to solve." She looked away, but a small smile formed at the corner of her lips. If the stories about humans come back to my kingdom, I want them to tell how steady you are. Daniel laughed softly, and the rover continued onward. As they moved deeper, the valley changed again. The sky above seemed lower. The sunlight bent in strange directions. Alira lifted her wrist device, trying to make sense of the energy readings. But every time she scanned the air, the numbers shifted wildly. My tools can't predict anything here, she admitted quietly. This valley refuses to be measured. Daniel didn't rely on her device. He trusted his instincts. When he saw a slope that looked too smooth, he avoided it. When he saw sand that sparkled too brightly, he turned away. The valley felt chaotic, but Daniel treated it like a living map. At some point, Alira leaned closer to him, her voice soft but serious. Daniel, do humans always adapt this quickly? He chuckled. We try. She shook her head gently. It surprises me. My guards trained for years to face unstable terrain, but you walk into it like it's just another path. Daniel didn't answer. He didn't think about himself that way. He simply helped people, because that's what he did. Around midday, the valley's quiet changed. A low humming sound vibrated through the air. The sand rippled again, this time more aggressively. The rover shook. Daniel braced the controls, while Alira held tightly to the edge of her seat. What now? He asked. Alira's eyes widened. The first energy storm is coming. Daniel looked around. Where do we hide? She pointed toward a cluster of tall crystal pillars glowing faintly. There, inside the ring. Daniel drove toward the pillars as fast as the shaking ground allowed. The rover jumped over small dips and slid across shifting sand. The humming became louder, almost like music that hurt the ears. Daniel pushed the rover harder, guiding it into the center of the ring of pillars. As soon as they crossed the invisible line between the crystals, the humming softened and the air grew still again. Alira let out a relieved sigh. The pillars hold old protection. We're safe here. Daniel turned off the rover. How long does the storm last? She looked at the sky. Not long. But when it ends, the valley will look different. He sat back, catching his breath, while Alira stepped out to observe the crystals. She walked slowly around the circle, touching some of them with gentle fingers. These pillars are from my world, she explained softly. Long ago, our ancestors tried to stabilize the valley. They left fragments of our energy structure here. Daniel stepped beside her. So your people have been to Earth before? She nodded. Many ages ago. Before humans had big cities, before your people even had writing. Daniel blinked in surprise. You're telling me aliens visited Earth thousands of years ago? Alira smiled softly. Not aliens, visitors. We studied many worlds to understand cosmic rifts. Daniel scratched his head. Then why didn't anyone stay? She looked up at the sky, her golden eyes thoughtful. Your world was too young, too noisy, too wild. But it also had strength. Life here grows with stubborn hope. Daniel chuckled. That sounds about right. She turned to him. This is why I chose a human guide. You are not trained for cosmic energy, but your people adapt fast. Daniel shook his head lightly. You give humans too much credit. She stepped closer. No, I give you credit. Her voice held sincerity that made Daniel pause. For the first time, he noticed the weight she carried, not just fear, but responsibility for an entire kingdom far across the stars. She was young, but she carried the dignity of someone raised to protect others. A soft wind picked up around the pillars. The humming sound far outside the ring grew louder. The storm swirled in the distance like a wall of shimmering light. Alira watched it quietly, leaning on one of the pillars. Daniel stood beside her, offering silent company. After several minutes, the storm passed, the humming faded, and the valley grew still again. But just as Alira predicted, everything changed when they stepped out of the ring of pillars. The ground that had been flat now rose in layered ridges. The path they came from was twisted into a new shape. The horizon looked farther away. The air felt cooler. Daniel looked around. So now the hard part begins. Alira nodded. Now, the valley tests your heart. Daniel raised an eyebrow. My heart. She looked serious. This place does not attack the body. It challenges the mind. It pushes fears forward. It shows illusions. It whispers doubts. Only those with a steady heart reach the center. Daniel didn't say anything. He wasn't afraid of illusions, but he didn't like the idea of the valley playing tricks inside his mind. Still, he wasn't going to turn around. They continued deeper, moving slowly as the terrain shifted with every hour. The ground pulsed with light sometimes, like hidden currents moved underneath. Strange voices appeared in the wind-soft echoes that didn't belong to any creature. Daniel knew. Alira noticed his quiet tension and touched his arm gently. If you hear something that tries to make you doubt yourself, ignore it. Daniel nodded. I'll try. They walked a little farther before Alira suddenly paused. Her eyes widened. Daniel, do you see that? Daniel looked ahead. At first he saw nothing, only thick blue sand and a faint sparkle. But then something formed, a shimmering shape rising from the ground. It looked like a tall figure made of fog with soft glowing eyes. Daniel stepped slightly in front of Alira instinctively. The fog figure shifted and vanished into dust. That was an illusion, Alira whispered. They will grow stronger the closer we get. Daniel kept his hand steady. We'll handle them. Alira watched him with calm admiration. You don't flinch. Even illusions don't break your focus. He shrugged lightly. Worrying doesn't help. They moved forward again. The valley grew quieter, almost too quiet, like it was watching them. Alira walked close to Daniel, her steps careful but confident. She seemed to trust his rhythm, matching his pace naturally. Then let's go. They climbed together. The sand shifted under their boots, but Daniel pulled Alira up whenever she slipped. She held his arm tightly, and for the first time, she didn't hide her fear. But she didn't stop moving. With Daniel beside her, she felt stronger than she ever had on her own. When they reached the top, Daniel and Alira walked together down the glowing path, each step bringing them closer to the center of the Forbidden Valley. The strange, shimmering particles in the air floated around them like tiny stars, drifting slowly as if watching. The tall crystal towers rose on both sides like silent guardians, glowing softly with pale silver light that pulsed in a calm rhythm. The path looked beautiful, but Daniel felt a strange pressure in the air, a gentle force pushing against his mind. He didn't stop. He only tightened his grip on the rover pack and kept walking. Alira could feel the change too. She pressed her hand to her chest, trying to steady her heartbeat. This is the heart of the valley, she whispered. The illusions here will be stronger. We must stay close. Daniel nodded. I won't leave your side. She gave him a grateful smile. As they continued forward, the air thickened. The shimmering particles grew brighter, forming faint shapes that drifted through the space ahead. Some looked like faint figures, others like floating ribbons of light. Alira took a slow breath, preparing herself. Daniel placed a steady hand on her shoulder. They walked for several minutes before the first test arrived. The path ahead vanished. One moment it was there, glowing river of light. The next it was gone, replaced by a deep, empty space filled with swirling blue mist. Daniel stopped immediately. Alira gasped softly, stepping closer to him. It's not real, Daniel said quietly. He didn't know how he knew, but something inside him told him to trust his instincts. He leaned forward slightly and tapped the mist with the end of a metal rod from his pack. The rod passed through the mist and touched solid ground beneath it. Alira stared in amazement. You see through it? Daniel shrugged. The valley is trying to confuse us. That's all. They walked forward, ignoring the fake abyss. The illusion crumbled behind them like smoke blown away by wind. Alira's voice trembled slightly, but not from fear, more from admiration. You don't let fear control you. Daniel smiled calmly. Fear comes later. First comes the job. Alira shook her head gently. You humans are strange, Daniel chuckled. I'll take that as a compliment. They continued deeper. The air shimmered again, and this time, the illusion was more personal. A figure appeared ahead, someone familiar to Alira. Daniel didn't know who it was, but Alira froze as soon as she saw the shape, her eyes widening in shock. It was an older alien woman with the same golden eyes, tall posture, and elegant markings. Her expression was gentle and sorrowful. She lifted a hand toward Alira. "Mother." Alira whispered softly, her voice breaking. Daniel immediately stepped in front of her, blocking her view. "Don't look. It's not real." But Alira's eyes filled with tears. "She looks so real." "That's why it's dangerous," Daniel said patiently. "Your memories are being used against you." Alira swallowed hard, closing her eyes tightly. "You're right. My mother is safe. This is only the valley testing me." The illusion reached toward her again, but as soon as Alira turned her face away, it dissolved into dust. Alira wiped her eyes gently. "Thank you, Daniel. If you weren't here, I might have walked toward it. That's why I'm here." They continued on, step by step. The illusions grew stronger, sometimes showing familiar places from Alira's world, other times creating images from Daniel's memory's old desert roads. Familiar shadows, familiar voices calling from somewhere behind him. Daniel didn't respond to any of them. He knew they weren't real. He simply kept his eyes fixed ahead. Alira noticed. "You don't look back," she said softly, "even when the valley shows something from your own past." Ow. Daniel took a slow breath. "The past is behind me. I can't let it slow us down now." She walked closer, moved by his quiet strength. Perhaps that was why she felt safe with him. He didn't just guide her through the desert, he guided her through fear. Finally, the path opened into a wide space surrounded by tall crystal pillars that formed a perfect circle. In the center lay a shimmering pool of liquid light, the crystal pool. It glowed with soft blue and silver colors, swirling gently like a living star trapped inside water. Alira stepped forward, her breath catching. "We made it." Daniel looked around cautiously. "Is the valley done testing us?" Alira shook her head. "No, the final test is here. The pool itself chooses the outcome." Daniel frowned. "What does that mean?" She lowered her gaze. "If my heart carries fear or doubt, the pool will reject me. If I approach it with strength and purpose, it will accept my signal."
Ow. Daniel turned toward her.
"Tell me what you need." Alira looked up at him, her golden eyes glowing softly. "I need you near me. The valley reacts to your presence. You balance the energy. Without you, I might fail." Daniel nodded without hesitation. "Then, I'm not moving." Alira walked closer, standing shoulder to shoulder with him. She took a deep breath and stepped toward the pool. The water-like light rippled gently, reacting to her presence. She bent down, touching the surface with her palms. The glowing pool lit up brighter, sending thin streams of light upward like rising smoke. Daniel watched carefully. Ready to help if anything went wrong? Alira closed her eyes and spoke softly in her own language. A gentle flow of tones that sounded like wind singing across glass. Her voice echoed through the crystal circle, creating a beautiful hum that resonated with the pillars. The pool responded. The light inside it swirled faster, growing brighter and brighter, until the whole area glowed like a small dawn. Daniel shielded his eyes slightly, but he didn't step back. A soft vibration moved through the ground. Alira breathed deeper, her voice becoming stronger. Suddenly, a beam of pure light shot upward from the pool, piercing the sky. Daniel stared in awe. The valley trembled gently, the crystals shimmering like stars in a dance. Alira's voice softened again, and the beam slowly faded. The pool calmed. The light dimmed to a gentle glow. Alira opened her eyes slowly. Her whole body relaxed, and she whispered, "It worked." Daniel stepped closer. "You did it?" She nodded. "Yes, the signal is sent. My kingdom will receive it. They will come for me." Daniel smiled softly. "Good. That's what we came for." But Alira's expression held more than relief. It held something deeper, something warm and emotional. She stood up slowly, turning to face Daniel fully. "Daniel," she said quietly, "you didn't have to help me. This wasn't your fight. Yet you came with me step by step, without fear, without asking for anything. Daniel shrugged lightly. You needed help. Lyra shook her head. It's more than that. You believed in me when I wasn't sure of myself. She took a slow breath and stepped closer to him. In my world, we respect those who stand by us in moments of fear. We honor those who walk into danger without hesitation. And we cherish those who give us strength. Her voice softened. You gave me all three. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck, slightly embarrassed. I just wanted to make sure you got home. Lyra smiled warmly. And I will. But I don't want to leave without saying something important. She looked directly into his eyes. In my kingdom. A promise born in danger carries great meaning. A bond formed in fear becomes a bond of trust. And trust becomes something stronger. Daniel blinked slowly. What do you mean? Lyra lowered her voice. I mean that I trust you more than anyone I've ever known. And when my people come, they will want to honor the one who saved their princess. Daniel stepped back slightly. Lyra, I'm just a desert guide. She shook her head. Not to me. You are someone who walked through an impossible valley just to help me breathe easier. Daniel didn't know what to say. Lyra placed her hand gently over his. When you helped me, you didn't know I was a princess. You didn't know I had a kingdom waiting. You didn't know what reward I could offer. Yet you still helped. Daniel smiled softly. Anyone would do the same. No, Lyra whispered. Not anyone. Only you. She held his hand for a long moment, her golden eyes filled with calm emotion. Suddenly, the ground trembled softly, not dangerously, but as if the valley itself acknowledged the moment. The crystal pillars hummed gently. The shimmering particles drifted closer, floating around them like soft stardust. Lyra looked up at the sky. My people will arrive soon. The signal travels fast. A ship will appear before sunset. Daniel nodded. I'll help you reach a safe landing spot. But Lyra stayed still. She looked at him, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel, when they come, I want you with me. I don't want to say goodbye here. Daniel blinked. You want me to go with you? Lyra nodded slowly. If you stay on Earth, your life will be simple, safe, quiet. But if you come with me, your life will change. My people will welcome you as someone who saved their princess. You will see worlds you never imagined. Daniel took a deep breath. The idea felt unreal, yet strangely right. Lyra wanted him there, not because he was special, but because he cared. Lyra stepped closer, her voice warm and gentle. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I want you in it. Daniel looked into her glowing eyes, feeling a connection he never expected when he woke up that morning in the desert. He nodded slowly. The sky above shimmered suddenly. A silver streak appeared, growing brighter with each second. A starship was approaching. Lyra took Daniel's hand, her fingers warm and steady. Come, she said softly. My people are waiting. Together. They walked back through the valley, the illusions quiet now, the path clear. The air calm as if the forbidden valley itself respected their bond. And when the starship descended from the sky, lighting the desert with silver,